Then Pilate therefore took Jesus and scourged him. Why would he scourge Jesus if he hadn't done anything? Hadn't Pilate seen that Jesus was in the business of doing good and serving and multiplying the bread and healing the sick? By the way, this Pilate, for those that don't know, this Pilate was the grandchild of Herod. Remember Herod, the baby killer? Remember? That was his granddaddy, baby killer. And the grandson of the baby killer Herod was this Pilate. Therefore took Jesus and scourged him. And the soldiers platted a crown of thorns and put it on the head, and they put on him a purple robe, crown of thorns, and said, Hail, King of the Jews. And they smote him with their hands. Smote him with their hands. Pilate therefore went forth again and saith unto them, Behold, I bring him forth to you, that ye may know that I find what? No fault in him. There is a God, 100% God, 100% man, who came to this world to die for you, even though he had no fault. And why did he do it? Because he loves you. You may think he doesn't love you. You may look at yourself in the mirror and you don't love yourself. You may hear your spouse and you feel that he doesn't love you anymore. You may listen to your boss and you may feel that he doesn't love you anymore. I'm here to tell you, there is a God in heaven who loves you. Amen. I don't know who you are. I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know what kind of a week you had. I don't know how freezing it was in your home. I don't know how many people that may have rejected you when you were a little kid. I don't know if today is your birthday and nobody's wishing you happy birthday. By the way, tonight, before you go to sleep, whisper in the ear of the elder who was sitting here, happy birthday. Okay? I'm just going to give you the initial. His name begins with a letter Carlos Banda. I close my parentheses. After you wish him happy birthday, I close my parentheses. If you feel unloved, if you feel rejected, if you feel like nobody cares, if you feel abandoned, if you feel betrayed, if you feel like the whole world loves you except the people in this church, if you feel like your family despises you, if you feel like a failure in front of your parents, don't forget, there is someone who came to this world and that someone loves you. And that someone is Jesus Christ. Even though he had no fault. Then came Jesus forth wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate saith unto them, Behold the man. When the chief priests therefore and the officers saw him, they cried out saying, Crucify him, crucify him. And Pilate saith unto them, Take ye him and crucify him, for I have found no fault in him. And from thenceforth Pilate sought to release him, because the Jews cried out, saying, If thou remember when I preached a sermon 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, when I told you that the political nature of the reason why Jesus was killed, that in the heart of his disciples there were politics, that in the heart of the members of the Sanhedrin there were politics. Remember that sermon I preached? I'm here to tell you that even though that was a superficial reason, deep inside, Jesus died for your sins and my sins. If thou let this man go, thou art not Caesar's friend. That is a political threat, a political statement. Whosoever maketh himself a king speaketh against Caesar. But they cried out, Away with him, away with him. See, there's no reason. These people were slandering him. And I wish somebody would have said, Stop slandering my Savior. That's what they were doing. And since slander couldn't work, they simply cried, Crucify your king, crucify. Pilate said unto them, Shall I crucify your king? And the chief priest answered, We have no king but what? But Caesar. where they crucified him and two others with him on either side, one, and Jesus in the midst. And Pilate wrote a title, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. And the title then read, Many of the Jews, for the place where Jesus was crucified was nigh in the city, and it was written in Hebrew, and in Greek, and in Latin. By the way, Latin was a language of the Roman Empire. Okay? Latin was a language of what? Of Roman Empire. Okay? Don't use the word Latin to describe Pastor Benjamin. I'm not Latino. Stop calling. I'm not Latino. I don't speak Latin, and I don't represent the Roman Empire. Okay? If you want to call me something, call me Benjamin. Okay? I like when you call me Benjamin. Latino, this is a stereotype by a culture who just wanted to distinguish Latino and American. No, we're all members of the human race, the race of God. Everything else is pigmentation. I'm Peruvian, yes. You call me I don't speak Latin. Anyway, that's another subject. Don't get me started on that sermon. When Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciples standing by, whom he loved, he saith unto his mother, Woman, behold, read the red. Woman, behold. When I got married, I had the privilege, the day of my honeymoon, I had the privilege of living with the two sets of in-laws in my house. Has that ever happened to you? That's the greatest blessing that can happen to you. Because you're supposed to honor your father and your mother until they die. You don't abandon them. Oh, Pastor Benjamin, but there's no room. Who cares? Buy another house. Oh, but it's too expensive. Then go to Loma Linda. They're cheaper there. Oh, Pastor Benjamin, but there's too many people. It doesn't matter. Look at the example. The last commandment that Jesus kept was the fifth commandment, because he was honoring his mom. And he said, behold and according to history, 10 years, she died in 44 AD, roughly, according to history. And she went to live in the house of her new son by the name of John. So take care of your parents. And let me tell you something, children. No one loves you more than your parents. Are you listening to me, children? No one loves you more than your mom and your dad. Oh, not my boyfriend gave me a kiss. Yes, that boyfriend, he can dump you. But your mom will never dump you. She loves you. So you listen to your mom. Obey your mom. Follow your mom. Okay? And then when she's old, bring her to your house. Okay? I'm serious. This is from the Bible. Woman, behold thy son. There are things you will never understand until you become a mom and a dad yourself. Let's continue. And saith he unto the disciples, Behold thy mother. And from that hour, that disciple took her into his own house. He said, It is finished. And bowed his head and gave up the what? Gave up the ghost. And he died. He died not only for political reasons. That's the superficial reasons. There was politics in the heart of Peter, politics in the heart of John, politics in the heart of James, politics in the heart of everyone, politics in the Sanhedrin. Yeah, that's superficially. But inside, he died because he wanted you to have eternal life. And that's why we're going to have communion. But Pastor Benjamin, why did he have to die? I'll finish with a story. And after the story, we'll have communion, we'll have foot washing. 10 minutes later, we come back, we have the foot, the emblems, and we're going to celebrate communion. But before that, I have to finish with a story. Do you like me to finish with the sermons with a story? Do you like me to do stories at the end? Say yes or no. Yes. I'm going to tell you a story. This is a Peruvian story that took place roughly in the year 1966. I was alive in the year 1966. You know how old I was? I was a week old. I was born in June 23, 1966. So during that year, in the month of June or July, around that time is the winter of Peru. There's a most beautiful story that illustrates the chapter we just read. It is a story of the most beautiful woman. Have you ever met a beautiful woman, ladies and gentlemen? Have you ever seen a beautiful? Okay, multiply that by 10. Who married the least beautiful man. How do you say least beautiful man? Ugly. Who said that? Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Have you ever seen an ugly man? Multiply that by 10. That's the name of this guy. How do you say ugly in Spanish? Feo. But when you want to be cute in Spanish, you don't say feo. You say feito. Feito. It means the same, but it's more endearment. So it's a story. We're going to change her name. Her name, we're going to call her Carolina, and we're going to change his name. We're going to call him Feito. Okay? It's the marriage of Carolina, Miss Peru, and Feito. First day of class. They're waiting for everybody to go into chapel. Who are the new people? Who are the young, handsome theologians were standing on the corner, and all of a sudden a woman with nice-looking hair started walking into the chapel period, and all the respiratory system ceased, and all the palpitation of the hearts terminated, was finished, because in front there was Carolina, the most beautiful specimen, Miss Inca, beautiful. Her eyelashes were huge. And she was walking in and walking in. That afternoon, Feito, from the window of his dorm. By the way, Peruvian Inca Union College has 2 dorms. Men's dorms and girls' dorms. And they are faced to each other. You know what's the name of the nickname of the men's dorms? It's a book from the Spirit of Prophecy. They call it the Great Controversy. The men's dorm. And you know what they call the ladies' dorm? The Desire of Ages. So here's the Great Controversy. From the window of the Great Controversy, Feito tells his roommate, "Hey, roommate, I have a problem." "What is your problem?" "Come close to the window. I have a problem. I am in love." Being in love is not a problem. It's the solution to your problem. Who are you in love with? Come to the window. See that lady over there? And the roommate looks at him, looks at her, looks at him again, and he says to him, "You do have a problem. You have the right to fall in love with anyone except with her. All the theologians, all the good-looking ones have gone after her, and she has rejected all of them. Fall in love with anyone." But Feito says, "But I love her. I love her so much." "Well, you're going to have a huge problem." Few weeks go by, month of June, September. Months go by, nothing happens. When all of a sudden, Inca Union College is surrounded by the mountains on the right, mountains on the left. It's like Mars. There's no vegetation, just rocks. Mountains on the right, mountains on the back, and in front there is a Rimac River. So whenever there's a rumor, it bounces from that mountain to that mountain. And from that mountain, the rumor was, Carolina's being kicked out because she can't pay her tuition. She's being kicked out. And that rumor bounces. And that rumor bounces. And Feito does something crazy. What does he do? He goes to the treasurer, Mr. Treasurer. Now, I was doing my research. It might have been Don Sullivan, who also was the treasurer of our conference. Pastor Sullivan, is it true that I have money in my account? Yes. He started opening up his blue eyes. Can I put my tuition in the name of someone else? He says, "Are you crazy? I heard that this lady by the name of so-and-so is being kicked out. Is it true?" Yes, because she can't pay her tuition. Can you put my money on her account? How much? 50%? 100%. But that means you're going to have to be kicked out. Are you willing to leave? Are you willing to be kicked out of the... Yes. Why? Because I love her. And there's nothing he could do. He tried to persuade him. But Feito was madly in love with her. And he paid her tuition in full for the rest of the year. And nothing happened to her. He goes to his dorm, puts his clothes and his luggage and his baggage, and he, just picture him, Feito. Picture him going into the Lima and then getting an airplane, going to the jungle. And he was excellent literature evangelist. The whole month of January, he sold books. The whole month of February, books. The whole month of March, which is the summer in Peru, selling books and selling books. He managed to get 2 tuitions for the following year. And he comes back, and he tells his roommate, I thought that the last 6 months my love would diminish, but I found out that I love her even more. So the roommate says, why don't you propose marriage to her? And he says, I'm afraid, I'm too timid. I'll go help you. Get a piece of paper. He gets a piece of paper. Write the following statement. Carolina, the day I saw you, I lost my identity. That night, after writing all those beautiful love letters, and the moment she said, you want to marry me? Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? That night, Feito was crying. She didn't know about the story, about the tuition. That night, he was crying. The roommate goes to her and says, Carolina, you have the right to reject any boyfriend. You have the right to accept any boyfriend. But you don't have the right to hurt the feelings of my roommate. You don't have the right to belittle him. He's crying. Do you know what he did for you last year? Do you remember when the rumor was bouncing that you were being kicked out and you couldn't pay your tuition? Do you know who paid for your tuition? No, I didn't. The guy who's crying in my room. Did he do that? She said to him. Did he really do that? Oh, that was devastating for her. She went into her room, and she cried in her room, and she wept and cried and wept and cried and wept. What is it worth that I'm so beautiful, and if I don't have any money, what is it worth with me? The following day, surprise, the following day, Feito and Carolina were holding hands. The following week, they were engaged. And before the wedding, a week before the wedding, the roommate says to her, why are you marrying him? You're just grateful that he paid your tuition. And she said, no. When I discovered that someone who loved me so much was willing to pay from his money and pay my debt in full, when I discovered that there was someone in this world, I have had suitors of all kinds, suitors of good looks, but what is it worth? None of them love me. They just love my hair, my eyes, my body. But when I discovered that there was someone, regardless of their looks, who loved me so much, I came to my senses as a woman, and I said to myself, how can I reject someone who loves me so much? And I decided to marry him, and they got married. You know that story? Remember when I told you that nobody picked me to carry the Bible when I was a kid? Remember when I told you that story? They never have. I never carried the Bible when I was a baby. And I would say, Mom, why don't I carry the Bible? And my mom would say, because you're too cute to carry the Bible. They got married. And they had children. And they're still married until today. And they had children. And you know, the children were 50-50, you know, because she's kind of cute. And they were 50-50. But the purpose I'm telling you the story, my friends, is when you forget Feito, forget Carolina, forget Inca Union, but don't forget this. When you look at Jesus at the cross, when you see his sacrifice for you, when you see that he was sitting in the thrones of heaven and he came down and he gave his life and his blood, and he was scourged and he was beaten and he was kicked and he was pierced and he was killed and he was murdered. He did it because he loves you. And you're going to have a reaction. And I hope you have the reaction of Carolina. How can I reject someone who loves me so much?